Okay. So today we'll start a new chapter. Let me share the screen. Is my screen is visible? Please respond. Is my screen is visible? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So number of participants 25. Okay. Let's start. Okay. So today we'll discuss about theories of failure. Okay. This theories of failure has two words, right? Theories plus failure. So everyone has their own meaning of failure. Okay, in if you relate with personal life, if you relate with your day to day life, so everyone has their own definition of failure. In terms of general things, in machines or in structures, we used to say a structure is failed when it breaks, right? So basically, there will be two criteria for failure. One will be yielding. Okay, one will be your yielding. When sometimes we describe when the structure yields, that it tends to deform, then it gets failure. And there will be one more word, fracture. Fracture. So at fracture, your structure has deformed. It breaks. So this is one definition of failure. This one is one definition of failure. Okay. So machine parts will fail when the stresses induced by external forces exceed their strength. So I always has discussed from the starting of the class that a structure will able to it will able to take a certain load or certain stress. When we apply a load, it will able to take a certain amount of stress. After that, it will break, right? So that we have to design the structure in such a way that there will be two stress. One will be allowable stress, or you can say my voice is breaking. Okay, let me also switch off the fan. Is my voice is clear now? Hello, is my voice is clear? Okay. Okay, so okay, I'm starting. Okay, so let me know if you find any issues again. So okay, ma'am, your voice is cracking. Still, it is cracking. Please respond. Still, it is cracking. My voice is clear. Echoing because I'm in a single classroom. It is audible. Can you adjust with this little bit echoing? Please respond. I have to start the class. Should I proceed? Should I proceed? Okay. Okay. So we have two stress. Okay, thank you. So basically, your when we design a structure, we design a structure to particular load, how much load it can take. Okay, so we design the structure for allowable stress. That means the stress we can allow. After that stress, your structure will break. Okay, so it can take only that load. So machine parts or structure, when the stresses induced by external forces exceed their strength, the external loads cause internal stresses in the elements and the component size dependent on the stress develop. Stresses develop in a link subjected to uniaxial. So till now, from the first class, we have studied about the uniaxial. That means, suppose I have discussed, suppose this is if this is your cylinder, if this is your cylinder, we are uniaxial means only in one direction. Okay, only in one direction we are applying. This is tension, right? Or so I have again, if you take in this way, so uniaxial means only stress only in one direction. But in general or in day to life, a structure or a machine or any component, it won't get any uniaxial, it will get many stresses from this direction, from shear it will experience some shear stresses. Okay, so but what we do, we cannot find the stresses on this complex body. So what we do, we find the stresses body as a uniaxial. We relate this stress with this complex structure. Okay, so the energy transmitted by machine will be these will be the different forces acting on a structures. Before going to theory of structures, I'm starting with the basics. Okay, so this is one structure. Stress develop in a link subject to uniaxial loading. It is experience a tension. Okay, it is experienced a tension, and this is the internal forces. These arrows are showing your internal forces on the member. In another way, load may be classified as static load. Load does not change in magnitude and direction and normally increases gradually to a steady value. So you have sometimes static load, you will get some dynamic load. Static load means you can consider your dead load of the your self weight of the structure. That will be considered under static load. Dynamic load, when load may change in magnitude, for example, traffic of varying weight. Suppose dynamic load, suppose you can consider of earthquake also. Okay, then moving of vehicles over a road, those are dynamic load. The load is continuously changing, but static load, the load will be similar in magnitude. Okay. Now there is a very important point, factor of safety. You will get this word whole your life, factor of safety. Determination of stresses in structural and machine components would be meaningless unless they are compared with the material strength. Okay, so how much stress it can take, it will be meaningless if we don't consider the material strength. Okay, how much is the strength of that material. If the induced stress is less than or equal to the limiting material strength, then the design component may be considered to be safe. Just read the line. If the induced stress, that means with the load we are giving, and the stress generated from that load is less than or equal to limiting material strength, that means the a material, how much load it can take, and the stresses generated due to our load is less than the limiting material strength, then our component is said to be safe. Okay, and an indication about the size of the component is obtained. The strength of various materials for engineering application is determined in the laboratory with standard specimens. For example, for tension and compression test, a round rod of specified dimension is used in tensile test machine where load is applied until fracture occurs. This test is usually carried out in a universal testing machine. If in solid mechanics, maybe uh, earlier teacher you have he has given you about universal testing machine. What we do, we insert a rod over the machine and we try to pull that rod. Okay, so after some time that rod gets fractured, so the load at which it gets fractured is the tensile strength of that material. Okay, so basically factor of safety, this is a very important point. That means we have to relate our material strength with the stress, and this stress should be less than the capacity of the element. Whatever we load applied, it always be the stress generated by that load will always should be less than the material strength. That means the load it can carry. Okay, we should not exceed this load or stress comparison to a material strength, otherwise it will definitely fail. So go through YouTube videos, you'll get lot of videos about universal testing machine. What we do, we insert a rod over that and we try to pull out. Okay, so at some point it will get fractures. The load at which specimen finally ruptures or fractures is known as ultimate load. So the load at which we are applying load, okay, continuously applying load, it will get yield. Like suppose this is the rod, okay, this is the machine, this is the machine of one end, and this is our rod. Okay, you will try, this machine will try to pull in this direction, this part of the machine will try to pull this in this direction. Okay, at some point it will fracture. So the load of the load showing by this machine at which it gets fractured is known as ultimate load. That means this is the load it can carry. After this, it will be fail. So the load at which your structure gets fails, that will be your ultimate load. The load at which the specimen finally ruptures is known as your ultimate load. Okay, and the ratio of load to original cross sectional area is the ultimate stress. As we know, stress is nothing but force per unit area. So force is your this ultimate load. So ultimate load divided by cross sectional area of that specimen will give you ultimate stress. And we discussed from the stress strain graph, right? We discussed from the graph that here it was the ultimate stress. This was the strain, this was the stress. So this the final point of the curve, this is your ultimate stress. So the specimen at which finally the structure or material ruptures is known as ultimate load, and the ratio of that load divided by its cross sectional area will give you ultimate stress. Similar tests are carried out for bending, shear and torsion, and the results for different materials are available in handbooks. For design purpose, an allowable stress is used in place of critical stress. So allowable stress means we can allow that much stress only. Okay, after that we cannot allow. We will design the structure based on, we'll design the structure that at ultimate load it can carry, but normally we go for allowable stress. Okay, in place of critical stress, to take into account the uncertainty, including the following: uncertainty in loading, inhomogeneity of material, various metal behavior, corrosion, plastic flow creep. Because of all these reasons, we used to take the allowable stress in our design purposes. So your factor of safety, it is the ratio of ultimate stress divided by allowable stress. Okay, and allowable stress is set considerably lower than the ultimate stress. The ratio of ultimate to allowable stress is known as factor of safety. Okay. So for ductile materials, the yield strength, and for the brittle materials, the ultimate strength. Okay. So we have two types of material in our day-to-day life. One is ductile, one is creep means, okay, I'll come to that point. Okay, so so we have in day to day life we have two types of material. One is ductile, one is brittle. Now give me an example of a ductile material and give me example of brittle material. Let's start with Achumi. Give me an example of ductile material. Which material is known as ductile material, or which material we say that it is ductile, it is brittle? All of you answer in the chat box. Till you answer, let me draw a curve. Give me an example of ductile material and brittle material. Fast. What? Aluminium and steel is what? Reply me. It is ductile or brittle material. Ductile is iron. Rubber for ductile. Okay. Aluminium is ductile, glass is brittle. Okay. Stress. Bricks for brittle. Okay. Good. What about others? So see, go and check the ductile and brittle materials. Okay. Today just search what are ductile materials, what are brittle materials. So see, so for ductile materials, what is the yield strength? Will take yield strength. For ductile material, will take yield strength. After yield, it will for ductile materials the yield strength, and for brittle materials we take ultimate strength as the critical stress. That means for ductile materials we take yield strength as the ultimate stress. That means the stress after which it will fail. Okay, remember this point. For ductile material we take yield stress as the critical stress. That means after this stress it will get failed. That this point. And for brittle materials we'll take critical stress as ultimate strength. This part. Today go through the stress strain curve we have discussed in earlier classes. Okay. So for brittle material we take critical stress. You have understood critical stress, the stress at which your structure will fail. Okay. Start rupturing or it will start fail. So for brittle materials, when it reaches its ill strength, it will get failed. And for brittle materials, when it reaches its ultimate strength, it will get fails. Okay, so there is a difference in critical stress for ductile materials and for brittle materials. And the ratio of that ratio of ultimate stress by allowable stress. Ultimate stress is the stress at which your structure will fail. Allowable stress that at which we can allow. Generally, we can allow that if we apply a load less than this or equal to this, your structure won't fail. Okay. So your factor of safety is the ratio of ultimate stress by allowable stress. The ratio must always be greater than unity. So this ratio should always be greater than 1. Unity, that means 1. Okay. It is easier to refer to the ratio of stress since that applies to material properties. So if you say that I am getting factor of safety of 2, better. If you say I am getting factor of safety 0.5, it is not better. Then you need to worry about the structure. Okay. You'll get this factor of safety in your building design in earlier steps. So let's come to theories of failure. So when a machine or element is subject to a system of complex stress. So see, we till now we discussed that your structure, suppose your this cylinder is getting uniaxial stress. Okay. Uniaxial means in one direction only, perpendicular direction. So the uniaxial means only in one direction, that is perpendicular to the surface. Now I am giving you a structure of day-to-day life. Suppose this one is a structure. Or suppose consider this cylinder itself. In day-to-day life, it won't only uniaxial stress won't act on this structure. There will be some shear stress. There will be some compression. Okay. So how will you find these? So when a machine or structure is subjected to a system of complex stress system, that means complex means it is uniaxial in the form of tension, in the form of compression plus shear stress we have discussed. So suppose you are assume that I have given a cylinder there, you are getting tensile stress also, compression stress also, and shear stress also simultaneously. So this is a complex stress system. Okay, you cannot say that I am applying a load in uniaxial direction and it is getting failed by the stress generated by uniaxial load. Okay, it can fail by tension. It can fail by compression or it can fail by shear. So it's a complex stress system. It is important to predict the mode of failure so that the design methodology may be based on a particular failure criteria. So in uniaxial, it is easy to tell you that why it is getting failed. Okay, why this yours when these stresses are not applying, when these stresses are not acting, just simple uniaxial stress is acting on the structure, then it is easy to say that it is getting failed by the stress, right? But when the complex stresses are acting on a structure, it is difficult to say by which failure criteria it got failed, right? So that's why there are various theories given by the scientist. Okay. Theories failure are essential a set of failure criteria developed for the ease of design. So for the ease of design, to make the design easy, scientists have developed, they have studied and they have developed some theories. Theories means if this happens, then this is the reason for the failure. Okay, sometimes shear stress may be the reason. Sometimes the strain due to shear could be the reason of failure. Sometimes energy, everything is in the form of energy, right? So sometimes the energy stored in the structure or in the material is not enough to take that energy. Okay, so see, heat is a form of energy. Okay, suppose I have a wooden structure, or suppose I have a structure, I'm applying I'm applying a heat. So maybe that structure is not able to take that heat and it gets fractures. So heat is a form of energy, so that structure is not able to take that energy and it gets fails. So you cannot say that the structure, in uniaxial it is easy to say that it fails by the stress generated on the structure. But in complex stress system where you are getting tension, compression, shear, it is not easy for you to say that the structure is getting failed by the which criteria, because of tension, shear, stress. Okay, so that's why these theories have been designed. So in machine design, or a structure is said to be have failed, it ceases to perform its function. So if it fails, if does not able to perform its function. So there are two criteria of failure. One is yielding, as I've discussed for ductile material. This is due to excessive inelastic deformation rendering the machine part unsuitable to perform its function. This mostly occurs in ductile materials. So ductile materials get failed by yielding. Suppose, consider this is a stress strain diagram. You are applying a load. This is the elastic region, and you'll get a yield point. Means the point it starts it starts getting deformed. After this, it won't get its original position. That means your elastic part is getting reduced, means you're losing the elastic part. So what happens in ductile material, it will get failed at this point only. Okay, when it starts yielding, it will fail for ductile material. But in uh, brittle material, in this case the component tears apart in two or more parts. Okay, it will break into two or more parts. This mostly occur in brittle materials. There is no sharp line of demarcation between ductile and brittle materials. However, a rough guideline is that if percentage elongation is less than 5%, then the material may be treated as brittle, and if it is more than 15%, then it is treated as ductile. So hope this yielding and fracture part is understood. That when it's losing its, that's why, see, to understand this, that's why I have started with stress strain curve in earlier classes. Okay, so if you have understood that stress strain part class from my earlier class, then you will understand this yielding and fracture part. I have discussed this part there also. Still you have any confusion, please ask me. Okay. And what I'll suggest you go for your stress strain diagram. You will get the creep point on that curve itself. So to discuss, so one more thing, which one will be ductile and brittle? So there is no sharp line of demarcation. Means you cannot separate actually which one is ductile and brittle. Sometimes some materials which is ductile in nature behaves as brittle also. So main there is a rough guideline is that if the percentage elongation is less than 5%, if you elongate it, if the percentage is less than 5%, then the material, then it may be treated as brittle, and if it is more than 15%, that it will be considered as uh, ductile. However, there are many instances when a ductile material may be failed by fractures. Okay, I have just said that as ductile materials is failed by yielding, but there are some examples, there are some exceptions. Just like in chemistry, there are some exception that it will be failed by fracture. This may occur if a material is subjected to cyclic loading. Hello? Someone is speaking. Was can't hear. Okay. So where I left when it cracked and where I was not clear. Where I left, please let me know. Now my voice is clear. Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible? Please respond. My voice is okay. Okay. So where I left, please let me know. Have you understood yielding and fracture part? Have you understood yielding and fracture part?
And fracture part.
Fracture part. Okay. So, okay. So basically, we have 2 point yielding and fracture. So ductile materials. Ductile materials yielding. This is our stress strain part, right? This is our stress strain part. We get, then we get this. So this is the yielding. This is the fracture point. This is the this is the fracture point. So your ductile materials will get failed at this yielding point only. When yielding point is that when it start loses its elastic property. See, this is the elastic limit we have discussed in stress strain curve. This is the elastic limit. At this limit, your structure, it will have some elastic property. If you stretch it out, it will get back to its original from when you when you release the load, right? But after some point, after it reaches this yield point, it will not get back to its original shape. It will start deforming. So your ductile material used to get failed, or it is a critical stress for ductile material. It get fails at this point. Okay. Now fracture. Fracture is for brittle materials. Brittle materials, what happen? It will pass the yielding phase. It will come to this phase, and at ultimate stress, the stress at this point, it will get fractures. Okay. And there is no sharp demarcation between ductile material and brittle materials. You cannot say that this material is ductile, or with some materials you won't able to distinguish between that. So there is a rough guideline is given that if the percentage elongation, how much it is getting elongated, is less than 5%, then the material is treated as brittle. And if it is more than 15%, then it is treated as uh, ductile material. Okay. So, however, there are many instances when a ductile material is failed by fracture. So, usually your ductile material fails by yielding, but there are some exceptions when your ductile material fails by fractures. Okay, this is because of these reasons: cyclic loading, long-term static loading, impact of loading, work hardening, severe sequence. So, yielding and fracture can be visualized in a typical tensile test as shown in the figure. So stress strain diagram for a ductile material, example low carbon steel. So this is the stress strain diagram. Okay. This part is the elastic range. This is the elastic range. That means at this part, if you release the load, it will get back to its original position. Now till P, your structure is in elastic region. Okay. Now after again you apply a load, it will reaches to a point Y. So this is your sigma Y is your yielding stress. Okay. Then again, if you start loading, this is U. This is your ultimate strength. This is for this is for uh, this is for brittle material, right? So at this point it will get fractures. Okay. So this is your sigma U. This is your sigma Y. So basically, I want to say that, let me note. So safe condition, if you consider a safe condition, so for safe condition for ductile material, ductile, let me note once again. If you want to consider a safe condition for ductile material, suppose this is ductile material, your this sigma y, sorry, the stress you applied should be less than or equal to sigma y. For the safe condition of a structure which is in ductile in nature, your stress applied, that is your sigma, should be less than sigma y. Okay, and your brittle material. For brittle materials, safe condition will be your stress should be less than or equal to sigma u. Sigma u is the yielding stress. I am representing sigma u as ultimate stress. So got this definition. For ductile material, your safe condition, your structure, your ductile structure will safe, your element will be safe if your stress applied is less than or equal to sigma y. Sigma y is your yielding stress. And for brittle material, your sigma should be less than or equal to your sigma u. and sigma is your ultimate stress. If this value exceed this value, your structure will fail. Okay, and in ductile cases, if this value increases your sigma y, so it will fail at this point on. So that is the difference between ductile and brittle material. So based on this is for low ductility. This is the stress strain diagram for brittle material. This is the stress strain diagram for low ductility. 0.2% offset. What was this? What was the term referred for 0.2% offset? Anyone remember? 0.2% offset. We have discussed our term for this value. Anyone remember? Please respond. 33 students are there. Anyone know this value? What does 0.2% offset? Why we take this 0.2% offset? Just the word itself will be enough if you know this. And I understood that you are studying regularly. No one. What is this 0.2% offset? Why we take this 0.2% offset? No one. Yielding stress. Anyone? Anyone? Only one student replied. What about others? Okay, go and see your notes. If you have made notes, go and see your notes. Okay, so let's move. Yielding strength. There is a written offset, so it was related to some offset. Okay, so for a typical ductile material, as we have shown the stress strain diagram, there is a definite yield point where material begins to yield more rapidly without any change in stress level. Corresponding stress is sigma y. We have discussed. Close to yield point is the proportional limit which marks the transition from elastic to plastic range. Beyond elastic limit, for an perfectly plastic material, yielding would continue without further rise in stress. That is, stress strain diagram would be parallel to the parallel axis to strain. You just study this. I have discussed in the figure itself. So now these are the theories given by the scientists. There are different theories, maximum principal stress theory, and it is also termed as Rankine theory because Rankine has given this theory. That's why his name is given. So we have maximum principal stress theory, maximum principal strain theory, which is also called Saint Venant's theory. Then we have maximum shear stress theory, Tresca theory, maximum strain energy theory, Beltramis theory. We'll study all this theory in the next class. Then we have distortion energy theory, which is also known as von Mises Ill criteria. Then these are the theories. How many theories do we have? So these theories we'll discuss in the next class. 2, 3. So total 5 theories we have. Okay. So these theory basically depicts what is the failure criteria on a structure. Suppose if this happens, so this theory says ki if we'll discuss this theory. According to this theory, they have given some conditions. If this happens, this is the reason of the failure. If this happens, this is the another says if this increases, so this is the reason of failure. So like everyone has their own opinion of failure or success, right? So these scientists have given their own theories for failure, just like you have got in your science Rutherford experiment, right? Structure Bohr model, then Rutherford experience Bohr model, then Henry something I forgot, Pauli's exclusive principle, like that. So all the all was about the structure of atom. Okay, they have given the different theories, right? So the failure, how why the structure fails, they have given their different failures theories. Okay, so we'll study in the next class. Okay, so write your roll numbers in the chat box. Please write your roll numbers in your chat box. Hope all of you wrote their roll number. Okay, anyone left? Okay, so see you in the next class at 10:30. Okay.